Hi there, this is Tami Bonnell, co-chair for EXIT Realty Corp International, and I'm here with broker owner Corwyn Melette, owner of EXIT Realty Lowcountry Group in South Carolina. And I have to tell you that I've been a fan of Corwyn's from the first day that I met him, and I was very fortunate. He was actually very actively involved in the Board of Realtors, and I had an opportunity to meet him before he had a franchise with us. But he has a servant heart and has always focused on making sure that he gives the best to his people and gives the best to his community. And so today he's going to share some information with us about what he's doing with affordable housing in his area. And our goal is focusing on the solution. Our goal as a whole, as a company, as people, is finding some solutions that hopefully we can duplicate and replicate in other areas of North America so that we can make this an opportunity for more people. The opportunity for people to have a roof over their head, the number one dream in North America is to own your own home, and yet the income level is shifted enough that it's such a difference between where income is and where the average sales price is, and it's making it more difficult for a lot of people. But we decided that we would focus on the solution, where there were opportunities and where there were possibilities for people to do it, because if you can do it in one place, you can do it in another. And if I'm focused on the problem, that's all I'm going to find. But if I'm focused on the solution and I see something else, maybe I even go have a conversation, and because it's in a different state or a different province or a different county, I might need to do it a little bit differently, but I at least have a framework to work with. So saying all that, Corwyn, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me. I would love to start with what got you involved in affordable housing in the first place. What got you involved in really wanting to participate and make sure that you gave back where you are?
So Tami, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity, quote unquote, to share my story. So affordable housing or attainable housing, I kind of use those two things interchangeably as far as wording goes. My reason surrounds my purpose in the industry, which is to serve people. I'm a huge advocate, quote unquote, for the underdog, and just my entire life story, just to be very frank and direct about it, is a mountain of you cannot that we have been climbing for now in my life, roughly about 48 years of climbing that mountain of you cannot do that or you can't. So affordable housing just kind of seemed to be that thing. I grew up in rural South Carolina, poor, area. Farming was a big tobacco town where I grew up at. And we all know what happened to tobacco a long time ago with lawsuits and all that stuff. So we saw the industry in our area just bottom out. Fast forward later in life, I'm in the Charleston area. Charleston has saw some things happen too with, military base closures, things of that nature. Out of this, as the economy was rebuilding, there seemed to be a segment of people that were left behind. And that's where I was challenged at, to help people achieve the dream, the aspiration of home ownership. And many people, either first generation homeowners, some of them, just never believed they would be able to do it. I said today, and I'll say this and stop, but I said a little earlier today to a member of my team, we had completed something. We helped someone move into an affordable rental today and, get a lease signed. And it's been a journey back and forth, challenging, stressful and things of that nature. And I asked him when it was over, well, hey, how do you feel? Well, I feel good. Well, do you feel good that you ain't got to deal with it anymore? Or do you feel good that you served the person? Because I feel good that we got the person served. So, that was an educational moment today surrounding, affordable housing and, to be blunt, what we do.
I think that it's such a great thing that you have those teaching moments to share with your agents where those opportunities are. And as you were speaking and talking about, I know we see places all across the country that a business closes, an industry stops, and we end up with there being some vacancies. But I'm a firm believer that so much of this is exposure to experiences, right? If I get exposed to it, if I'm not aware of what's available, if I'm not aware of what the possibilities are, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what to think about. But if I hear something about someone else having a success story, then maybe it's possible for me too, right? Maybe it's an opportunity for me too. So how do you do homework so that you stay ahead of the curve on being aware of what's available out there?
So a lot of that is relationships. So, I don't talk much about my life before exit. But my life before exit had me working with a local nonprofit organization that had the bright idea to start a real estate company. Probably not the best move, but it was a bright idea, and they did it, and they hired me to run it. And in doing that process, I got exposed to various nonprofit organizations that either directly or indirectly funnel down payment assistance programs. Many of them over the years have endeavored into home ownership, development, developing and building, new homes. And now most of those nonprofits are now clients of mine that we serve to market the homes that they build or develop. So, that is what kind of got me in that network. And, one person introducing you to another person, they know that you do this and that you're committed to it, and the relationships build. So, I know people at various organizations, some that only do education, meaning homebuyer education, credit, debt counseling services, some consolidations and things of that nature. Many of them offer down payment assistance programs, either through private, donations and/or through public, donations. There's a lot of government funding that trickles down through to serve, the underserved. So a lot of those programs and stuff, again, I know a number of the directors, and that helps. One person introduces the next person, so forth and so on.
So if it's somebody that's out there that's working in real estate, or somebody that's out there that wants to have that opportunity of attaining affordable housing, where's the first place they go to look for information?
So the first place is most states have some type of housing development organization. In South Carolina, it's state housing. It's housing. They handle rentals, but there's a segment or particular. I won't call it a direct branch, but an affiliated branch that handles down payment assistance programs and things of that nature. And they put money on the streets through other, venues and organizations to help with the development of affordable housing. So the first things, matter of fact, let me back up past that. Agents that want to get into affordable housing, everybody champions and says affordable housing. That's kind of the key word now, because housing prices have accelerated at such a point that people have been left behind. They're challenged, so now they quote unquote qualify for affordable housing. To do any of this, you have to have the right heart, have to have a servant's heart. This requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of steps. It's not just, hey, I'm gonna write this contract and that's gonna get the closing. It is, this person sometimes has to approve this, and this group, this board of directors, sometimes you might not get an answer about down payment assistance or any other component that's a part of the transaction until somewhere late in the transaction. And we're used to, as real estate professionals, we're used to, hey, we got to get this done right now. Affordable housing takes much longer, and it requires a commitment to serve. And you got to keep the buyer encouraged. And if you don't have the right heart, if you're not in a place where you're doing it not for the money, not for the transaction, but for the person, for the family, the people that you will impact, not just here, but also down the road, if you're not doing it for the right reason, you will find yourself challenged at every turn in affordable housing. That's the first thing. The second thing, if you're committed beyond that, then the next thing you need to do is look up nonprofit organizations in your community that offer housing counseling. That's where you want to start. Go meet with a director, housing counselor, find out about the programs they offer, find out about the things they're doing. The next thing beyond that is, if your municipality, your town, your city, local county government, do they offer programs? How do they help increase affordable housing options in the community. What are they doing? Are they putting money in the streets by subsidizing investors? Are they giving tax incentives? What are they doing? Find out, and then from there, work to bridge every gap that you create. And once you've done that, then you will have a very good toehold, if you will, on affordable housing within your community. And you and then will be able to educate others as to the path to achieve homeownership utilizing your roadmap.
I completely love that. I firmly believe that you need to have a compound interest in the person that you're in front of, that you need to add value. And if you build those relationships, you'll be able to add to those connections, because when you do something good for someone, they want to do something good in return. But all of this starts with education, right? You need to really make sure that you educate yourself and that you stay on top of where the possibilities are and where the trends are, right? So I love that. And I think that, looking up those keywords, looking up for the what government entity, whether that's state housing, and then finding out all the nonprofits that are available, making sure that you educate yourself. And the real estate professional needs to be educated truly, just like the consumer, and feel the process so that you have empathy all the way along, right? For all of those pieces of the puzzle. And what a feeling. So I want you to share a few stories with us of bringing people into this opportunity of attaining housing, and not just the process, but the difference that it's made in these people's families. Because I know, Corwyn, that's what makes you able to stick with it, right? You really see this change, and you just changed the trajectory of that whole entire family. And it's so much for the better, and that appreciation, there aren't words for that level of gratitude.
So I'm gonna start with, you don't make a lot of money at affordable housing, but you make an impact. That is my word for this year, impact. What can I do? Who can I punch? What can I punch? And it's going to have a ripple effect, quote unquote, across the community. So I was thinking about this actually early this morning on my drive into the office, just about what things that we've seen happen. So I'm gonna give you probably one of the first times that it really sunk into me, what the opportunity was to help people. So this goes back to late 2000s, or late 2000, prior to 2010. And I'm doing a deal. I have a lady. She has a disabled son, another younger son. Her disabled son, she took care of him full time, and they were living off of a Social Security check for him and a small subsidy or what have you for her. I mean, we're talking total income, documentable income in the house that was under $1,500 a month. This was, again, a previous market. Home prices in Charleston were not what they are today, but reasonable house or home prices. And I remember we were working back and forth trying to figure out how to do it. Was able to layer up a couple of down payment assistance programs, and in turn that with what I would say is a smaller mortgage, we're able to get her family into a townhouse, which was huge. And I remember, I distinctly remember, here we are putting a lady into a home on a house and a housing payment that she could manage. She could have a place for her son, and they could live out their days, if you will. And we were able to do that on an income less than $1,500 a month. And my mind was blown. It took me going, hey, look, we got to figure this out. It took me going saying, hey, look, can you put this money with this? It took me saying, hey, lender, will you do this and do that so we can make that work? And in turn, we were able to do it. And that's one of the stories that I tell as to the impact that housing affordability programs have on the community. That is someone that was paying rent, moved from place to place, because every time the rent went up, they couldn't afford it, so they had to move. That is someone now who doesn't have to move because they own it, because now they're buying the house that they're in. They're not going to get caught with a rental increase, and substantial rental increases happen in our market. Another story I'll share. We have, we actually have closed in the past month or so a couple of affordable units, and in turn, we're seeing families impacted, small, people starting out, young children, so forth and so on. So, we just built a brand new house out in one of our rural areas, not far outside of town, but what we consider to be a rural area in the Charleston area. That young lady, if my recollection serves correct, had 3 children. So it's her and 3 children. We sold her a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath, single-story home, brand new, brand new. Layered in some down payment assistance through the developer, which came from the funds that they used to build the home, and got her into this brand new home with a mortgage payment that was under $900 a month. That's impressive in this market. That
Huge.
same house, I should have had a mortgage payment on it somewhere at least $1,300-$1,400 a month, all, escrow and everything. And we were able to get that done. And we have several more that we're going to be doing in that same community. And trust me, we'll be able to put other people into houses down there at a payment that's going to work for their affordability. That's the opportunity. So now we have children who are grounded and rooted in the community because their home is there. So now they're not transient where they don't care about the neighborhood, where they're throwing trash, where they're breaking stuff, they're doing this and doing that. That is their home. So the values change. And in turn, the community looks different because now we have a vested interest. That's what affordable housing offers people the opportunity to do.
I think home ownership offers that opportunity too, right? Having that opportunity for home ownership, the difference in value for really feeling like you're part of a community. I remember, Exit has done a lot of builds with Habitat for Humanity because we have the spirit of Exit, and money from every transaction goes to charity. And I remember working on a build, and we were working with all the regional owners, and we were in Texas. And, they put in sweat equity when they do a property for Habitat. And so they were putting in a sweat equity. They were paying a mortgage after the fact. So it's a leg up, not a flat out handout, which I'm a huge fan of. And I know you are too. And this young man, 16 years old, was coming in to help with the property. And I got an opportunity to spend a little bit of time and have a conversation with him. And we were working all together. I mean, it brings the community closer together. It brings everybody that's working together closer. And I was asking him about school and friends and all that. And he pointed and he showed me that his school was about 2 miles from where the house was. And I said, and how far are you living away now? And he said, about 3 miles. I said, so not much will change. Mm-hmm. This thought in my mind. And I was really talking about school, right? That he'd be able to stay in the same school. But he turned and he looked at me and he said, no, ma'am, everything will change. And I said, what do you mean? He said, this is the first time, 16 years old, that I will ever live in a place that's decent enough that I can actually have a friend over after school. I couldn't even speak. I couldn't even talk. I was just so overwhelmed of it's so easy to make assumptions, right? That everybody's in a safe place or a clean environment or the right circumstances when we know that's not true. And so you're changing so much, not just the generation of the parents that are there, but the children that are in that home as well. I'd love for you to share another story or two of just even something that really did impact the community or impact the family, or even as time went on, being able to look back at it, or those people even jumping into your life in some way, shape, or form, just so that people see a few more facets, if that's possible.
So, we always keep quote unquote stories. So, we've done again a number of these projects over the years, scattered throughout, Charleston, the Charleston region, North Charleston, as well. We've helped, young professional couples or new couples, if you will, purchase their first home. So we did a home in North Charleston off of, it's over in an area called off of Remount. I'm sorry, in that particular corridor. Brand new home built, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, nice little starter. And the neat thing about these affordable houses is that they come with all the appliances, including the washer and dryer. So, they started out, first home, fairly newly married couple, but just couldn't afford, quote unquote, what traditional housing was, quote unquote, at that time in the market, what a typical new home or any other home that was decent. They just couldn't get to that particular break. So what happened in that situation, similar to some others, is that the mortgage was lowered, subsidized, because of development funds that were left inside the project, affordable housing development funds that were left in the project. So then it lowered the mortgage amount needed, which allowed them to qualify and purchase the home. That couple bought the home, they stayed there for a few years. In turn, as the subsidy gradually trickled away, they were able to sell it, realize a profit, and they used that to move up and buy a bigger home as they began a family. That is the leverage that affordable housing gives. And I'll give you, I have a number of them. I'll give you another one. I had a young lady who lived a little further out, in a more rural area, but, desired to own a home. We worked in this particular instance through the USDA program. They have a direct program a lot of people don't know about. So, our exit family, guys, there is opportunity there with USDA direct office, not through a lender, but directly through the office. They offer mortgages, and they will either subsidize that mortgage by lowering the interest rate and or extending the loan term, which brings the affordability down. So I remember helping this young lady at the time. I was closing people in the same price range. They had mortgage payments of $1,200–1,300 a month, and we were able to put her in a home in a low 200 price range at the time, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And she was able to have a mortgage payment that was about $900 and change, fully escrowed. So that gave her the ability. One, she had a son that was in college. She was a single mother. And that's another thing. We're able to serve a single mother, someone who was challenged to try to provide housing, care, support, nurture, and do that for her family. And in turn, she had a son that was in college, and then 2 other children at home. And to be able to purchase her first home before her son graduated college, so he could see, that is possible. So that in turn encouraged him to do the same thing once he graduated. So, that's what we're waiting on now, waiting on him to call us so we can go ahead and get him in that house.
I love that, because they see that it's something that's really possible, right? You want to see that it's a reflection of you, and it's something that you've actually experienced. Exposure to experiences is just so important. Can you think of resources that I know that we've talked about a chunk of them, but are there specific resources, like specific groups that go across the country that you've been familiar with, or is it strictly focusing on things that are local to your marketplace that you've been focused on you personally?
So I would say both. I mean, we utilize, so, if some of our, agents may be familiar with, the NACA Corporation. We've used them. I know the director and stuff over there. And I remember my very first NACA deal. It was probably one of the most uncomfortable times in my life. My very first NACA transaction. So we bought a brand new home. This was back into I'm gonna remember the year, because I'm gonna give you the direct correlation and reference.
Explain NACA to people that don't know first.
Okay, great. So NACA is abbreviated, stands for, I think it's something America Corporation. I'm sorry. NACA is a semi nonprofit. They offer loan services to disadvantaged. So they say that, but it's technically to anyone who qualifies, who fits their criteria. They work off of a lower debt ratio to make sure that the housing is affordable. So it counts to the buyer. It's not solely based on credit score, it's based on character. So last 2 years of your history, so credit history, making sure you pay all your bills on time, making sure that making sure that you budget. So making sure that you're saving money. If you're planning on buying a home, you're renting now for $1,200, the price point that you want to be at is going to require you to be at $1,500 a month on your payment. They want to make sure that you're saving at least $300 or more per month. They refer to that as payment shop. So the program requires you to go in for counseling as an intake initially. So the first step is you got to go to a workshop. At that workshop, they explain the entire process, how NACA started, which is an interesting story. They started because they sued a big bank a long time ago for predatory lending practices, and they won a lawsuit. So that lawsuit, now they have that bank at the time turned into another major brand, and then in turn there's two other major brands that they now put funds on the street for, they do loans through, and that's Citibank, Chase Bank, and Bank of America. And what happens in this process is that they allow the borrower to pay down or buy down the interest rate at what I believe personally is an obscene rate. 1 point gets you a quarter point off the interest rate. So you can buy an interest rate down under that program. You can't buy it to zero, but you can buy it pretty close to zero, which allows someone who has saved up money, who has allocated money to buy their interest rate down, to substantially impact their housing payment. So the first time that I did this program, I helped a young lady purchase a brand new home. This was in 2009. The market obviously was in, beginning quote unquote stages of a recession. So home prices were deteriorating. We're able to leverage concessions from the seller, from the builder, use the concessions to buy the interest rate down. So the young lady bought a house that at the time was priced roughly about $250,000. And she, at the closing table, when I saw her sign the docs, I physically got sick, because she was buying a house. I just closed on a house in that same price range about a couple of weeks earlier. Her mortgage payment was under $1,000 a month. It was 900 and some odd dollars that she closed on. That was her mortgage payment, all inclusive. I just closed on a similarly priced home. Interest rates were at the time around 5%. I had a $1,800 a month mortgage payment, and here she was signing for a same price house and a new house like I had bought at the time with a 900 and change mortgage payment. I was physically nauseous at the table, and I was hooked. I'm like, okay, these programs provide opportunity to help people. She had a family, children, she was trying to make sure she took care of and provide for, and it gave her the opportunity to own a brand new home that was large enough to accommodate, her and her family. On top of that, had a mortgage payment that fit within their budget, and in turn did not cause her to have, be house rich and, house poor. It didn't cause her to be house poor, because she could handle that mortgage payment. That's it. That's a differentiator.
So how do you think that we can spread the word so that more people know about these opportunities and more people know about these possibilities? Obviously, we have a set plan for what we're doing. Are there other ways that you can think of that we can make sure that we spread the word so that other people look at the possibilities instead of what's not possible? They're looking at what is?
That's very good. Very good question. So the first thing is ask questions. In order to do anything beyond what everybody else is doing, you have to challenge what everybody else is doing. You have to look at it and say, wait a minute, there's got to be something more. There's got to be something better. There has to be another option, and in turn seek it out. Don't just think just because everybody is going this direction that you need to go that way. I sometimes use this reference, a NASCAR reference. NASCAR figured out how to make a boatload of money by doing one thing, turning left. That's all they do. All you do is turn left.
That's great.
They figure how to do that. And oftentimes we think that we have to approach everything the same way, that we have to go the same direction everybody else does. However, Indy, the rally, all those things, and your real estate business typically ain't gonna be NASCAR. It's gonna be more like a rally race where you got hills, valleys, twists, turns, desert, all these things, mud, all that stuff to get through. And you have to learn how to navigate. And typically in a rally race, there's a driver and there's a navigator. When you are in and I've never said this before in my lifetime, this is interesting. But in these situations, you have to figure out how to be both in your business. So when you're going somewhere, driving somewhere, you don't like what it's looking like, or don't think that's what it's supposed to be, stop and reference the navigator side of you. Hey, look, there's got to be a different way. Let's look for a different way, and let's ask the question. NER has programs in place, workforce housing. That's a great place to get connected, because it's simple as affordable housing is workforce housing. It allows people to live where they work. That's affordable housing as well. Affordable housing is finding or assisting people with programs so they can live where they grew up, or live where they worship, or live where they do everything else, whatever that may look like for them. It is making a difference. So that's number one. We have to be committed to making a difference. And then we have to go beyond turning left all the time. We have to go beyond what everybody else is doing, and we have to chart our own course. That's what we've done here in this market, in this area. This is the commitment that we made in our backyard, that when it comes to affordable housing, we're one of the first names, if not the first name on the real estate side that is called, because we're going to figure it out. We're going to find it. Right now, I have someone that needs money to go with some money they got, and I'm okay. Let me find you some more money, because I need to get you into this house that's being built right now. If I get you a little bit more money, I can get you in the door.
I find that so often when people get that good fortune too, they want to give back, right? They want to keep this going and they want to give back. I hope you write an article on what you just spoke about. You do an amazing job on social media of delivering messages to people that make people want to be better. And that's a great one. So I hope you write about it, because that's phenomenal. You know, I had the opportunity to be in upstate New York a while back, and it was right after IBM moved out, and it really decimated an entire community, and it had a huge impact. And the average sales price was very low for a home, was very low, but the property tax was very high. And it took away 50% of the industry that was in everything that was tied to it, not just that company, right? Everything that supplied that company went out, and it really had this it was a hole in the wall in that community. And I sat down with a couple of brokers, and it was just such a refreshing conversation. They went to town hall, and the family members, parents, people that lived in the community, people that owned property, people that rented, and they went together, and instead of just fighting, they said, all right, what's our priority? And they said, they decided that their children were their priority. And they all agreed to pay more property tax than what the average property tax was, even for low average price homes, as long as they put their children first. And they agreed to pay a higher rate for teachers so that they would draw in and attract better teachers so that their children would have a better future. And they agreed that they would pay for breakfast and lunch for every child all week long without having to have a meal ticket, so nobody looked any different. And they came to that agreement all together because they realized what their priority was, right? And they decided, okay, what's our priority? And then they all came to work together as a team. They collaborated. And it sounds to me like everybody's collaborating at your office, and people are collaborating in your community. And it is really, okay, if we've gone this far, what can we do next, right? I can tell you for sure, Corwyn, you are making an impact. You're making an enormous impact on your office, in your community, and to these families. And I can't thank you enough for participating. And please write that article, because that was brilliant. What a great thought to just literally, that's all they had to figure out was going left. They did one thing really, really well. But every time that you learn something, right, you can add to that. So you've gone this far and you've worked with this. What if you did add one more thing so that it just literally was the difference between them being able to move in and not? Just by going that one step further. You've already worked this hard, right? You've already gone this far. And I love that you touched on life and lifestyle, you know, that they can live where they work, that they can, you know, we're even seeing companies subsidize and pay for affordable housing to attract good people to work for them, so people can live where they work, they can live where they worship, they can live where they grew up, because that's shifted. I know where I grew up, the difference in what the average sales price is now compared to what it was then has definitely pushed a tremendous amount of people out of that marketplace, as I'm sure it has for many people all the way around. You have given us a wealth of information today. I hope you continue to share the success stories, because that's success begets success. And for sure, that's going to make an impact everywhere. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with us. I know that it's going to have an impact on the people that are listening.
Awesome. Awesome. Tami, thank you so much for having me. If I can answer any other questions or be of any help to anyone, y'all please reach out.
Thank you so much.